Good morning. I am in my robe. I have like big old slippers on. I just woke up, poured myself a cup of coffee, started the fire, and I looked at the weather because I'm like, God, I am chilled to the bone. It is -3 outside right now. So it's so stinking cold. We heat our house with oil. We have an oil furnace, but we like to burn a lot of wood. And our house was just like frozen this morning. The kids have heaters in their rooms. So yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. So I came downstairs and got the fire started so that we could all warm up this morning. But that means today's dough is going to take extra long. As you saw from my board, I don't have a ton of orders this week. Our area is getting hit with a lot of snow. Everyone is literally sick. Everyone. I don't know if you guys are. If you are, leave it in the comments. My kids have had fevers of like 104, throwing up, all the things, and we're just like over it. Like everyone in our area's kids are sick. And so a couple actually of my wholesale businesses are only going to be open for a few days this week. And they're like worried about staff not showing up and all the things. So fingers crossed everyone starts to feel better soon. I don't know how in the world I haven't got it or Andrew hasn't gotten it, because we've literally been, our kids have been glued to us. So I'm just shocked, but we're gonna go ahead and start some dough this morning. I am in no means stressing this week. It's gonna be a very easy, light week, which I actually prayed for over last week. I was like, Lord, just give me a break here coming up. And we also are leaving for Key West in like 18 days. So yeah, I'm just trying to kind of take it easy, and this week's gonna be pretty nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on some dough. I'm gonna show you guys in this video how to bake in a robe. No, I'm just kidding. How to bulk your recipes. So I get asked this all the time, but I think the main thing is you're just gonna have to try it, but I'm gonna kind of give you ideas on how to do it so you're not wasting a ton of your ingredients, because no one wants to do that. So we are going to be baking, or we're going to be mixing in this Hobart. Is it going to in the Hobart 20 quart? If you have a Hobart, you know that the trick is there's a little knob here on the back, and you got to line that up with the indent here, and you have to kind of angle it in, and then it rests on these two hinges right there. And this is like any other mixer, kind of like a KitchenAid, but it just slides into a little crevice there in the back. She's picked up. So I think I jinxed myself, because as soon as I said my husband and I didn't catch that cold, we definitely caught it. So I'm starting off my recipe with 17 cups of tap water. Now here's where I say you're gonna have to work with your measurements, because for me 17 cups of cold tap water works because I'm using a commercial mixer. If you're mixing by hand, you're probably going to use warm water, and you might not need as much water, but this is just kind of a gauge to help you. So basically what I'm doing here is I am taking my recipe for one loaf and I am multiplying it by however many loaves I want to get out of this batch. So right now I am trying to get about 11 loaves out of this batch, and my normal recipe for one loaf is 1.5 cups of water. Now, I've been playing with this recipe for a while, so I know that I am adding a bit more water than I need to, but with the mixer, it just seems to work out that way. Again, this is a gauge for you guys to kind of get started, but you're going to have to, keep notes and make sure that you are perfecting your skill. Okay, here's where things get a little weird for me, because with my flour, I do actually weigh it. It's just an easier way for me to keep track and be a little bit more consistent with the flour. So again, this is just how I do things. It's not right. It's not wrong. I am just kind of helping you guys along. So for this recipe, I am putting in 4 kilograms of bread flour. Now, here's another caveat. For some reason, sometimes the flour is a little bit more dry, and I have to kind of adjust as I look at the dough in my mixer. So as you can see right now, this is just 1 kilogram of flour. It's super watery, and I tend to mix 1 kilogram in at a time just so I can keep notes, and if anything starts to change or I like a result better, I can adjust my recipe. I'm always learning, always changing things, always trying to do better, and I really think that's the only way you can kind of keep your spark alive when it comes to sourdough, is to keep improving your skills. So I'm going to keep adding in 1 kilogram at a time until I get to 4 kilograms and make sure that it looks exactly the way I want it to look. So once I've gotten all of my ingredients mixed, there's a few indicators I look for to know that it is where I want it to be. Once the dough starts pulling away from the sides and wraps around the dough hook, I know that my dough is pretty much there. I can also see the texture is getting more smooth, and I can do the panel test, which means you take the dough and you pull it up, and as long as it doesn't break, it is good to go. So I let that sit for like 20 minutes. While I am waiting for that to, oh my gosh, I can't think this morning. I am just filling out my planner. I talked about this in like my last video or the video before, how this has become like a crucial part of my week. Yesterday was Sunday, which I should have filled it out on Sunday, but I was having such a hard day. My daughter was just like crying nonstop. I don't know if she had a bellyache or what, but nothing seemed to fix it. So we just chalked it up as a loss, really. So I'm gonna start this, drink on my cup of coffee. I'll show you guys my office. I partnered with another microbakery, Home Needs, so go follow them on Instagram. She is so inspiring. I love everything she does, but she has these aprons for her workshops, and I absolutely love them. So I worked with her, and she was able to hook me up with a local crafter who makes these, and yeah, they just turned out so stinking cute. I am obsessed with them. I made everyone put one on at the workshop, so I've got a bunch of those, which I love. Ta-da! The playroom slash basement is where I've started to work. This could be a really cool spot to do a podcast. If Andrew and I ever decided to do one, we'd have like, maybe get like a funkier couch and do a bunch of like fun wall art. I don't know. But anyways, this is where I've been working in the morning because it's literally right outside the door of the bakery. So come out here, coffee, notebook, all the things. The dough's been sitting for 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add my salt. I do use pink Himalayan sea salt. I just like it. I can see it in the dough to make sure that it's all mixed in there, but you could use whatever you wanted. I put 8 tablespoons of salt in a dough batch this size. So usually I would put 1 tablespoon per loaf, but I've noticed that that is just a little bit too much when it comes to bulk baking. So I do 8 tablespoons in this batch. As I've said multiple times, this is just what I do. It might not be right. It might be completely different than what other people do, but it is what works for me. So I also like to really scrape down my bowl. The less I have to clean in my sink, the better. So I make sure to do that at this point. I scrape everything off of my dough hook as much as possible, and then I'm going to take my bowl off of the mixer, and then I'm going to go ahead and dump that into my bins. I use these black bins. I found them on Amazon. I'll link everything in the description so you guys can grab them if you want. They're the perfect size for this amount of dough. I do have bigger ones that I would use when I would do like a double batch, but honestly, that's just way too much dough for me to handle. Even doing stretch and folds for 20 loaves at a time was just too much. So this is just perfect for the kind of baking that I'm doing. So I let that sit for 30 minutes. Now it's time to do our first stretch and fold. I do coil folds. It's just something that seems more natural for me. So what I do is I pull up the top of the dough, and then I pull from the middle, fold it on itself. And then I do that again. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn the bin halfway. And I'm going to go ahead and do another stretch and fold over, stretch and fold over. And as you can see, the dough is already stretching really well. It's already looking really smooth. Again, I just turn it a quarter turn, do the stretch and fold again, and then one last time on this side. As you can see, the dough has changed so much in just one stretch and fold. I feel like coil folds are just a little bit more gentle on the dough. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rag over this, let it sit for another 30 minutes. All right, that has been 30 minutes. I wish it went that quick, right? We're going to go ahead and do another set of stretch and folds. And as you can see, the dough looks really nice. This is one of the better batches that I've been doing lately. I've actually been perfecting my recipe for this video. I know that a lot of you guys are struggling, especially with the colder weathers, to get your dough to rise in a sufficient amount of time. And I found that this recipe works super well as long as your area is somewhat warm. So I'm actually only going to do 3 stretch and folds on this dough. I can tell already that it's already having bubbles in it. It looks really good. Everything is really beautiful. I don't even know how else to explain it. I just love how this dough looks at this stage. So I don't find it necessary to do a 4th stretch and fold. I've been working with dough now for quite a while, and I've noticed that as long as I get to a point where it's looking smooth, already has bubbles forming in it, I don't find much of a difference between doing one more stretch and fold and not doing it. So that has been sitting now for about 9 hours. I'm going to go ahead and dump it out. As you can see, the dough here is really smooth. It has a lot of bubbles. It's falling out of the bin fairly easy, which is what it should do. It shouldn't be really sticking to the bin all that much. If you tilt your bin up, it should pretty much fall out on its own. You can see there's a lot of bubbles going on here. It's definitely jiggly, and it's not really sticking to my fingers all that much. This is a really good sign. Everyone in my family has come down with this horrific sickness. I don't know if you guys are dealing with it wherever you are, but Lord, we can't catch a break. So I have my mom here upstairs with the kiddos. I texted all of my wholesalers, let them know that this week is going to be kind of touch and go depending on how we all feel. Luckily, I have been okay. Not as bad as the kiddos, so hopefully I can just steer clear of it. But right now, this order is really behind. The dough actually took really long to proof because our house is so stinking cold. It is less than 3 degrees outside right now, so we are all just like literally hunkered down and struggling. So I have to get this done. I need to go back outside to the barn and check on the animals. It's so cold that I need to make sure that they are all good. And then I have to deliver cinnamon rolls. One good thing is that my cinnamon rolls are discard, so I was able to kind of get those done. I was able to get those done yesterday and get them popped into the fridge just to kind of cold proof overnight. And then I just baked them this morning while both kids were crying, and it was just, it's been a disaster. My loaves are 850 grams. I have a scale and a bowl right here. I tried to get the camera to be able to see everything, but it just doesn't work out. So I have my board back here that tells me what I need. I actually already canceled on tomorrow's wholesale customer because there's no way the dough would be ready. I would have to, it just wouldn't. You do sourdough, you know what I'm talking about. You need at least 24 hours, especially when it's this cold, and there's no way. So I just let her know that, you know, unfortunately, we are just struggling over here. And here's my take on that. Everyone that I work with, they know I am doing this on my own. They know it's just me running the show. And if a wholesaler were to get mad that, you know, I didn't fulfill one order, then they're just not the partner for me. I'm more apt to work with people who understand, you know, circumstances. If I was just slacking and every week was not giving them an order, or I wasn't on time, then I totally get it. But just being sick and, you know, the kids come first, and that's how it is. So if they don't get behind that, then that is not a wholesaler that I want to work with. I have become very clear in my picking of wholesalers since probably a couple months ago. I had to drop a wholesaler because they just weren't, my values and their values did not mix, and that just it just wasn't a great partnership, and that's perfectly fine. I don't fault, you know, either of us. It just wasn't right. So you kind of learn who you want to work with, and this time when you're sick and you're struggling, you know which companies, you know, stand behind you and are willing to work with you. I think I've talked about this before too, but just want to cover it since we're talking about how to bulk up your recipe. We've talked about how to add in the ingredients so that you get more and you're not wasting it just winging it. But one thing that I always recommend is when you start out bulk baking is to give yourself a little leeway as far as numbers go. So if you know you have to make 60, just bulk a little more than that, because sometimes your ratios will be off once you're bulk baking. So I always, when I first started, I would give myself like 3 or 4 extra loaves just to make sure. So the good thing about this wholesaler and what I really like about working with them is they're super lenient. So as much as, like I texted them this morning and I was like, hey, running a bit late, having some children that are sick and not feeling too well myself. And he's like, don't lose sleep over it. It's just bread. And it's like, you're right. Like, it's not the end of the world, right? It's just bread. So when I do my dough, this you could do either way. So what I like to do is I like to make a whole bunch of dough, and then I do my inclusions when I form my dough. You could put all of your inclusions in your dough, but that would mean that everything that I did here would have to be the same flavor, and I just don't have that need right now. A lot of my wholesalers are doing like 5 of this, 5 of this, 5 of this, or 1, 2, 3, like all different things. Had a customer who needed like 10 pepperoni, then I would do that. I would just add the pepperoni in when I was mixing the dough, but I don't have that right now. So to me, it just makes more sense to bulk all the dough and then add the inclusions when I form it. It's probably more time consuming this way. Actually, it's not probably, it is more time consuming this way. But I don't know. It's just the way I choose to do it. You obviously do it however works for you. So this customer, they only do a few on their first pickup. They get 2 delivery or pickup deliveries a week. So they get a half of their order on Tuesday, which is today. So this is going to be really late. I usually do my deliveries between 9 and 10. It's already 11 o'clock today. These are just getting formed. And I'm going to cold proof them and then bake them. So they're not going to get these until probably tomorrow, which I've already explained to them. Like, I'll drop off your cinnamon rolls today and then I'll be back tomorrow with your bread. All right, well, this is like day 3 in this video. We all just got super sick. Like, the kids literally, it's just been, my daughter could not even get off the couch. She's just a hot mess. She's napping right now. I have the bread in the oven. I actually had to contact my wholesalers, tell them that I'm not gonna be able to fulfill the first 2 days of this week. It was literally like, it's just impossible. My kids come first, right? But with that being said, I've actually been kind of reflecting on my business and what really makes sense right now. And I've had a lot of clarity in the last few days. So I'm actually going to be like reevaluating the wholesale part of it. It's very important that I keep those relationships, but I do need to reevaluate it and decide what I'm going to do, because this summer I'm going to be at farmers markets and I can't possibly do it all. So I know this video is about bulk baking, and I know we've been taking kind of the long way around, but right now I have 12 loaves baking. So I do 6 on the top, 6 on the bottom. I could probably squeeze, it could probably be 14, 16, but I like to give the loaves enough space in between. So I'm gonna turn you guys around. I'm gonna show you exactly how I have them spaced out. I do use parchment paper, and you might not see that often. However, just with my setup here, so far I've been doing okay with the parchment paper. I haven't really seen a need to change anything as of yet. It could be possibly easier if I do some silicone mats, and but for right now this is okay. So I'm going to show you exactly what's in the oven. All right, so in the bottom oven here we have some plain, we have some everything, and some rosemary. That's a pepperoni one back there, but you can see how they are nice and spaced out. If you put them too close together, they will touch and they won't bake as well. I don't want to leave that open for too long, but you can see they are getting nice and tall and they look really pretty. After baking, pull them out of the oven, let them cool. I do use this wooden cooling rack. It's actually a shoe rack you can get at Walmart. As always, everything will be in the description below. I'm gonna put a few other links down there. Make sure to check them out. One new link that's gonna be in there is our website. This is something I've been working really hard on, honestly, for like 4 months now. But in that, there is a guide to starting a microbakery. So if this is something that you're looking to do, you really want to jump in, definitely grab that guide. It's very affordable. It has all the information that you need to get started to make your microbakery successful. One thing I am going to tell you is the microbakery the guide does not walk you through how to fill out the paperwork, because every state is going to be a bit different on how you have to get licensed. It does walk you through who you need to contact in your state, and like overall like regulations, but it doesn't go into specifics because each state is just a bit different. So that's all in this guide. I'm so excited to get that out to you guys. I was trying to think of any other questions I saw lately on videos. Everything will be linked below. Hope you guys have an awesome one. Hope you don't catch the bug that we all had, because it was awful. But I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, friends.